Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. In similar fashion to the first episode of this podcast, it has been a pretty rainy day here in South Florida, but we are powering through, and I'm actually recording this on October 3rd, so it is the weekend, something that I have been looking forward to for quite a long time, if you consider the week a long time, then yeah. But what I want to talk about today ranges from curiosity to vulnerability, and that's in part inspired by the reason I was looking forward to the weekend, and that's school. If you guys hear my brother practicing in the background, I am really sorry, but today has been very hectic. The week has been very hectic, and I just decided I'm going to sit down and I'm going to record this podcast because that's what I want to do. This is what matters to me. I find that in so many ways we forget what actually matters because we get caught up in the grind of school and looking good in front of other people and making sure that we're not quote unquote awkward and doing things not really for the enjoyment, but just because it's what you have to do. So what I did actually is I've been thinking about starting my own business and becoming an entrepreneur. And so I contacted this company in California called Life's Grape. And I'm not sponsored or anything. This isn't going to be the $50 million Spotify deal. But I contacted Life's Grape, and I love the product, and they gave me a discount code. So again, I'm not sponsored. This is not a hashtag ad on Instagram or anything like that. I don't even really use Instagram anymore, but I actually posted this on there. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave the discount code in the description of the video. Maybe I'll put it up on screen, but once again, what am I saying once again? If you guys don't want to, you don't have to. Anything that I do in partnership with another company or something like that, I'm only doing it because I genuinely enjoy the product, and I actually believe in the process that this company uses to make their food. So, yeah, it's Life's Grape. The discount code will be in the description, maybe on screen, and you don't want to if you don't have to. But that kind of leads into one of my topics, and that's curiosity. So, when I was writing this email, and I actually got help writing the email from my neighbor, I started to have doubts. What if they don't respond? What if they don't like me? What if what if something horrible happens? But it was the mindset of curiosity and asking, what can I learn from this? And asking, let's just see where it goes. Because I know for most of us in quarantine, that voice crack. In quarantine, we have spent so much time in our comfort zones that honestly, as Sam Smith very eloquently put it, comfort drives you crazy. It truly does, and it's a horrible feeling, at least for me. I can only speak from my own experience, and for me, being comfortable for so long has driven me insane. That's part of the reason why I was able to just stare the doubt in the face and say, I'm just going to see what happens. Just screw it, because if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Because a lot of people act like the cat in the first part of the phrase, which is curiosity killed the cat. Oh, the cat died. Can't be curious. Nobody ever tells you the second part of the phrase, which is, I'll actually just say the whole thing so it really flows. Curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. That's the entire saying, and I could not agree more. Because I think when you're putting yourself out there, it's scary in the time period between when you've just posted something or sent something and when you're waiting for feedback. At least for me, that's how it feels. And I think that's natural, because humans were designed not to go out of our comfort zones. But really the problem for anybody who feels like a victim, and I'm going to be completely honest here, I was struggling with this. I still struggle with this. Actually, yesterday night, I was feeling like a victim. I was angry. I was disappointed because I felt like nothing in my life was going the way it was quote unquote supposed to. But then I analyzed, okay, what's the way it's supposed to go? I don't even know. So what's the point of being so anal, if I may use some of Freud terminology? What's the point of being so anal if you don't even know what you want? Because if you don't even know what you want, you're not going to get what you want. And so a big part of this whole thing for me is figuring out what I want. This YouTube channel is part of that. This podcast is part of that. And I feel like a lot of people overestimate the material possessions out of a YouTube channel. I started this YouTube channel like I would start a buffet. I put the food out there, and whoever wants to eat the food is going to come and eat. Am I going to charge? No, this is actually a free buffet. And that's part of the reason why I started this whole thing, because I felt like a lot of these self-help gurus, or anybody that claims to be part of the psycho-spiritual environment, lies a little bit. Or not lies, but intentionally deceives to make things seem as though they are easy, as though it's a quick fix, as though you can watch this one video or take this one seminar and everything will be resolved. Because I actually saw this on a YouTube comment on a video by James Janney, or Johnny, I have no idea, but it's an amazing video where he talks about the self-help industry's pitfalls. And the comment said, if you read a self-help book, you're getting help from someone else. And if you don't take action on it. That's the impression I got from the comment, if you don't take action. So he said, if you read one of these self-help books and you don't take action, it's not self-help. It's just help. It's just help. My videos are not designed to be quick fixes. And I may sound a little pretentious just talking about myself on this podcast, and I completely realize that. Actually, that's one of the things that I wanted to avoid. But I feel like it's worth mentioning. I want my videos to be set up with the intention to help you look within. And I have to admit, I'll keep it 100 with you. That's kind of hypocritical because at times in my life, I have had no interest of looking within myself, even though I know that's the right thing to do. I have had times where I just force things to happen that aren't supposed to happen or aren't really meant to be. And the reason why I share these pieces from my life is because I find it cathartic. Not only for me, but I find it cathartic as if I was listening to one of these self-proclaimed self-help gurus, which, I can't even talk about because my name is the Anxious Self-Help Guru. But let's move on. As if I was listening to one of these gurus and then they were just bluntly honest. And I feel like that would make me have more respect and have more trust and faith in whatever I'm hearing. And I know that I'm supposed to practice what I preach. And I think making these videos is a way for me to hold myself accountable. Because whenever something happens, I think to myself, am I really the type of person that would do this? Because I made that video and I've practiced that before in my life. That's why I made the video. So let me continue being that version of myself that can uplift. So again, it's cathartic in a way, but also it helps you find some sort of ground. And whatever that is, if that's real, if that's fake, if that's ego, if that's your mind, I can't tell you. I'm not at that level yet where I can look within myself and instantly know, if I log on to YouTube at 4:44 p.m. and the planets are aligned, then I'm going to be able to reach this many people. I have no idea. I put the food out there. Whoever wants to eat the food is going to come. And I'm making it a point not to look at the views on my video. But I suppose that kind of defeats the purpose, because it's like, I think Quasi Joe here said, if this helps at least one person, I'm going to make the video. I want to be somebody like that. I want to be able to spend a day just doing nothing, with no technology, with no views on my videos, with no subscribers, whatever you want to call it, whatever followers. I want to be able to just sit down and be enough. And there are long periods in my life where I do feel like that, and I do feel like I am enough. And then there are some periods of my life where I have the thought, because that's what this really is. You can think that you have clarity, or you can think that you have no clarity. And there are certain points in my life where I think, okay, I have no idea what I want. But who am I to even say that? What if I do know what I want? I'm just thinking I don't, because I'm truly afraid. I think fear of success is something that a lot of people struggle with. Me included, actually. But the difference between sorry, I just had to get water. The difference between somebody who is able to put themselves out there and somebody who is so afraid of the outside world is how you think about your ability to handle it. It's not even your ability necessarily, because today I took a driving test. Today I took my permit. And I was nervous, I'll admit it, throughout the whole thing. I'd studied the book, but this thought, right? And you can probably hear it in my voice right now, but this thought was telling me, you're not prepared enough. And so I still passed. I got a pretty good score. Not to brag, but I still passed. But it was the thought about my abilities that kind of destroyed my inner state for the entire period of the test and made me super anxious. And most of the questions were common sense. So what I'm thinking is, if somebody had not studied the book, knew nothing about driving in Florida, and went into the test, somebody my age, by the way, so 16, went into the test and then knew nothing about it, just winging it, but told themselves, had positive self-talk and told themselves, I'm going to ace this, they would probably do great. Because it's very cliche, but it's the way that you look at things. And I think recently I've been in a period where I'm looking at things, but I'm not being grateful for everything that I have. I think that I'm looking at things as routine, as things that I have to do. And I'm feeling bored. But bored like I'm bored of waking up in the same house, talking to the same people. And maybe that's just regular things of the pandemic. But this episode is a little bit unstructured so far. And I think it's a great analogy for how I have been feeling. But really, is this the All About Me podcast? It's something. It's something that I talk on. It's something that I hope somebody can relate to. Because when I have a video, or when I'm watching something, and then somebody lays out exactly how I'm feeling, it makes me feel like it's valid. And even though you can tell yourself it's valid, still getting that recognition from somebody who doesn't know you, or who does know you but doesn't know you were struggling with that, is valuable. It's amazing, and it's necessary. It's definitely necessary. But I do want to talk about something that happened in my class. So I was in third period. And if anybody from third period finds this, shout out to you guys. But I was in third period yesterday, actually. And my teacher, she's open with the class, she was talking about, how your self-talk is so important. And she asked us to type in the chat how our self-talk was going the past few weeks, the past few whatever. And an astounding number of people typed that they were very harsh on themselves, and mainly school. Being so harsh on yourself to figure out everything in such a short and limited amount of time. And it just kind of astounded me how just because we have a first-person view of life, we assume that everything is our fault or our problem. And that's not to say that we don't create some of our problems ourselves, and that's not to say that we shouldn't accept responsibility. But something like school, I think it has opened my eyes, because in the past I thought that school was so secure, and school was going to be the thing that I could always fall back on, and school was going to be great. And until I hit maybe 8th grade, it was like that. But at a certain point, the system becomes more about an individual's performance than that individual's mental health. And you can hear it in my voice. I mean, I've had assignments on top of assignments, and I've fallen into this loop where I go to school. Actually, I don't even go. I go to virtual school. Then I do my assignments. I knock out essays in one day because I want to be done. And that's a problem that I have. I want to be done. I want to brush it off my shoulder, if that makes any sense. But it's a need. And it's not healthy. It's really not. But my problem is I've been letting that control me. And sometimes that's what you have to do. Sometimes for your mental health, you just got to knock it out. Because if you don't knock it out, it's going to be hanging over your head. Before recording this podcast, I had to read so much about European history and do assignments and write an essay and proofread the essay and edit it. And it taxes on your mental health. And if you hear a little bit of anger coming through, that's real. Because sometimes I can't understand how we are entrenched in a system that preaches self-care and self-help and quote-unquote taking responsibility and improving your life, and then decreasing your quality of life at the same time. I don't understand how you can have it both ways. And as I'm saying this, I realize this episode of the podcast is unlike any other episode in that I have topics right in front of me that I want to talk about. I have things that I want to get across, but my emotions are definitely coming out more than in previous episodes, because we all have two bodies, right? You have the emotional body and the mental body. Then you have the physical body. So you have the brain and the physical body, but the center of your consciousness is in the brain. And we're going to get a little bit esoteric. You're supposed to be using the mental body. You have the psychosoma and the mental soma. And I think I actually mentioned this in one of the videos, but in conscienciology, the study of the consciousness, you're supposed to use the mental soma. You're supposed to think rationally about what you want and how to get there. I think the problem is, at least the problem that I'm facing right now, is school has presented to me, at least my current situation, has presented such a disparity in what I hear and what I observe that I'm beginning to become dominated by the mental soma. I'm beginning to just fall into resentment and not liking things and allowing that to run me. And I try my best, but at a certain point, it feels like you can't hold it in anymore. That's why in this podcast, I've gotten personal. I'm saying what I feel. And it's honestly what I feel. I would rather be authentic, and I would rather it be me showing up than a version of myself. Actually, I want to rephrase that, because a version of myself shows up every time. I can't change that. But I can control whether it's the best version of myself or the worst version. But today, I'm really feeling like this is the version dominating me right now. Do I necessarily want that? No. But I feel like for me, I need a reset. I need to shake it off. I need to let go. And I think letting go is something that people really have a hard time with, because, at least for me, I did realize that it was a choice. And some of you listening right now are like, no way that it's a choice. But I was in, I think it was 7th grade, and I was very hung up on this girl, because this girl who, was a 7th grade girl was giving me the cold shoulder. And so I decided to completely close myself off. And I became I don't want to say introverted, because introverted isn't the right word for this situation. If you're introverted, that's a great thing because you can reflect. If you're extroverted, that's a great thing because you can connect. But I wasn't just closed off. I was actively closed in. It was like I was contracting to the maximum. And if this makes any sense, you're gonna know what I mean. But I closed myself off. I just used to stay up. I used to watch a bunch of animes. I used to stay up. And I was very hung up on that girl. And I would say to myself, why can't I let go? Man, I'm so disfortunate. Why can't I do this? And eventually, my mom is like the best, but she was telling me it's a choice. And eventually I actually realized it is a choice. Because when the thought of that girl came up to me, or when I saw her in school, and I would be like, boo-hoo, boo-hoo, it was either my choice to say, I dodged a bullet, or I just got shot in the chest. You have a choice of either. Truly is how you look at things. Like school right now, I've been looking at it very negatively. And that is my mistake. that completely 100% is my mistake. But if I took a different perspective, if I said, this school right now is just training for my eventual rise to entrepreneurship, then I'd probably have more energy and I'd be happier. At least happier with my situation right now. And don't get me wrong, I have amazing people in my life, and I truly think that having amazing people in your life and having positive self-talk is more important, and this might be controversial, than having, regular or monthly sessions of therapy. Because to me, this is therapy. To me, these podcasts are something I want to share. Something, at least in this episode, that I'm being vulnerable in. And to me, it feels like I'm giving my piece of the world. It feels like I'm having a little place right now that is mine, that is Anthony's. And I'm telling this place what's going on. And it's sort of like just screaming out into the open air, or, if the tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it. It's sort of like that. So guys, if you're feeling bad, start a podcast. But I'm not necessarily feeling bad, actually. And now that I've kind of talked about all of these things, it actually feels better, because eventually you can't keep everything inside. You have to let it out. That's the choice. Letting go is just a choice of how you view things, really. Because when the thought of, staying up all night and closing myself off to people, when that thought came, I could have acted on it, which I did, or I could have not acted on it. And I could have been compassionate. I could have said, where is this thought coming from? And when I criticized myself during that time period, and I took it very personally, then I could have said, that's not true. I could have actually vouched for myself. And here's something that I never got. So people who, quote unquote, they dislike themselves, right? The person that dislikes themselves, the part of you that dislikes the other part of you, they're both the same thing. And when I was so entrenched in this narrative of not being able to let go and being so distraught all the time, which part is real? The part of you that feels guilty over a past mistake, and the part of you that is creating that guilt, are both the same thing. So how can it be that one of them can fight against the other one if they're both part of the same thing? And this is definitely esoteric, but it needs to be said. It needs to be said. And this is my 2 cents. I think that the inner critic is exactly how Prendergast, John C. Prendergast, an author, describes it as the Wizard of Oz, who you pull back the curtain and it's like Scooby-Doo when they pull off the mask of the villain. It's like, oh, who are you? Oh, you're just this powerless little thing. You have no merit. Because the inner critic is just trying to be your idea of good. Whatever your idea of a good person is, or a good family is, or a good life is, that's what the inner critic is shooting for, really. But you're never going to get there criticizing yourself. And it's something that my whole class struggles with. I know I struggle with it sometimes. But I think I've gotten better at actually giving myself credit. Because I now feel like I do actually want to try new things. And I feel like comfort is not going to serve me forever. It's not. And it's not going to serve anybody forever. But another thing that I wanted to talk about was having a flexible identity. And this is an example from my own life. So, most of you have probably heard about the game Among Us, which is when you're on a spaceship and there's one imposter, or I think it's two. And it's like, you need to find out who that person is. And I was seeing a lot of videos for this game, and this is in the past week. Actually, this was yesterday. My study hall, this guy who I know in the study hall, he asked us if we want to play Among Us, and it's virtual study hall. So, and I was debating with myself. I was like, well, didn't I used to do this in the past, play video games, and just waste my life? Now, what if I do that and then everything goes wrong? And it was about my discipline. And that's kind of an insecurity, because I think when you've gone through a period in your life where you just go full throttle with everything that is bad, at least in my experience, you get kind of scared that that's going to happen again. You get kind of afraid that you're not going to be able to hold yourself up, and you lose that safety net of inner trust. But I did wind up playing. I had a fun 50 minutes, and after that, I wrote down what I was going to make for this podcast, and the next day, I followed through. Because I want to do something. I want there to be a place in this world where people can say, Anthony Bradley, Anthony had an impact. Anthony made this world a better place because he was here. That's what I want. And that's why I share what I share. That's why I make what I make. And that's why today's sponsor is Life's Great. But no. I would like to thank all of you for listening. Kind of a short episode today, but sometimes you need more time, I think. And I want to figure out what I want. I want to figure out who I am. And I do honestly want to make this world a better place. So thank you for listening. Have a wonderful morning or an evening, or if you're watching this late at night, put the phone down and go ahead and go to sleep. Good night, or good morning, I guess, whatever.